Captain Lee Jiho pressed his face against the cold metal of the observation window, watching the massive structure ahead grow larger with each passing moment. The Galactic Council station stretched across space like a silver city, its countless lights twinkling like stars. At 24 years old, Jiho was the youngest person ever chosen to lead Earth's first major diplomatic mission to the galaxy's capital. "Look at that thing," he whispered to himself, unable to hide his amazement. The station was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It housed representatives from over 200 different alien species, all working together in what was supposed to be perfect harmony. Behind him, Dr. Park Mina bounced on her toes with excitement. The 19-year-old scientist had spent her entire life studying alien life forms, but only through books and computer screens. Now she was about to meet them face to face. Her dark eyes sparkled as she watched the station through the window. "I still cannot believe we are really here," she said in her soft voice. 3 years ago we thought we were alone in the universe. Now look at us." Kim Taeyong looked up from his communication equipment and grinned. The 22-year-old had learned 17 different alien languages in just 2 years. His job was to make sure nothing got lost in translation during their meetings. "My translator is picking up hundreds of different conversations from the station," he said. "There are so many voices, so many different ways of thinking. This is going to be incredible." In the corner of the ship's main room, Choi Hannah was busy drawing pictures of the station's design. The 20-year-old engineer had already created some of Earth's most advanced space engines. Now she was studying how other species built things in space. "Their construction methods are so different from ours," she muttered, not looking up from her sketches. "We could learn so much from them." The fifth member of their team, Park Dong-hyun, was checking their diplomatic gifts one more time. The 23-year-old cultural expert had spent months choosing the perfect items to represent human civilization. Music, art, literature, and examples of human technology, all carefully selected to show the best of what Earth had to offer. "Everyone ready?" Captain Jiho asked as their ship began the final approach to the docking bay. His heart was beating fast, but he tried to sound calm and confident. These 4 people were depending on him to keep them safe and make this mission successful. The docking process went smoothly. Their ship, named the New Seoul after Earth's rebuilt capital city, settled into place with a soft thud. Through the walls they could hear the sounds of the station, alien voices, strange music, and mechanical noises they could not identify. "This is it," Jiho said, straightening his dark blue diplomatic uniform. "Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Let us show them what Earth's children can do." But something was wrong. As soon as the airlock opened, armed soldiers rushed onto their ship. The beings were tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Their faces had no expression, and their movements were quick and precise like machines. "What is happening?" Dr. Mina asked, backing away from the soldiers. "We have permission to be here. We were invited." The crystal beings did not answer. Instead, they pulled out strange metal restraints and began placing them on the humans' wrists. The restraints felt cold and sent small electric shocks through their arms. "There must be some mistake," Captain Jiho said, trying to keep his voice steady even as 2 soldiers grabbed his arms. "We are here on official diplomatic business. Our credentials are all in order." The leader of the crystal soldiers stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice sounded like glass breaking. "Mistake? Your people just attacked Research Station Omega-7. 15,000 innocent beings are dead. You terrorists will pay for what you have done." The humans looked at each other in shock and confusion. "That is impossible," Taeyong said. "We have been in hyperspace for the past 6 days. We could not have attacked anything." "Lies," the crystal being said. "We have video evidence. A human ship exactly like yours rammed into the research station. There were families on that station. Children." As the soldiers dragged them from their ship, Jiho caught a glimpse of the station's news screens. The images showed a ship that looked exactly like the New Seoul crashing into a large space station. Explosions filled the screen, and the news reporter was talking about the worst terrorist attack in galactic history. But Jiho knew with absolute certainty that they had been nowhere near that station. Their ship's computers would prove it. Their hyperspace travel logs would show exactly where they had been every moment of their journey. "Check our navigation records," he shouted as the soldiers pulled him down the corridor. "Check our ship's logs. We were in hyperspace when this happened. We are innocent." The crystal being that seemed to be in charge looked back at him with its cold, emotionless face. "Your ship logs can be faked. Your navigation records can be changed. But video evidence does not lie. The galaxy will see justice done." As they were dragged deeper into the station, Past crowds of alien beings who stared at them with hatred and fear, Jiho realized that something much bigger than a simple mistake was happening. Someone had wanted them here, wanted them blamed for this terrible attack. But what? And who would do such a thing? The last thing he saw before being thrown into a detention cell was Dr. Mina's face, filled with terror and confusion. These were supposed to be the best years of their lives, representing humanity among the stars. Instead, they were about to become scapegoats for a crime they did not commit. The trial began 3 days after their arrest, and from the very first moment, it was clear that justice was not the goal. The courtroom was enormous, filled with hundreds of alien beings from across the galaxy. Most of them looked angry, some looked sad, but none of them looked like they cared about finding the truth. Judge Vorthak sat on a high platform above everyone else. He was a massive creature with thick purple tentacles that moved constantly, like angry snakes. His 3 eyes glowed with a cold blue light as he looked down at the 5 humans standing in chains below him. "This court will now hear the case against the human terrorists," he announced, his voice booming through the chamber. The word, terrorists, hit the 5 young people like a physical blow. Captain Jiho stepped forward. "Your Honor, we request that you examine our ship's navigation logs. They will prove that we were in hyperspace when the attack occurred. We could not have been in 2 places at once." The judge's tentacles writhed impatiently. "These so-called logs could easily be faked by your primitive technology." Dr. Mina spoke up next, her voice shaking but determined. "Then please check with the Neutral Observers Guild. They track all ships moving through hyperspace. They will confirm our location." A tall, thin alien in a white robe stood up from the audience. "Your Honor, the Neutral Observers Guild has indeed confirmed that the human ship was in hyperspace during the time of the attack. Their readings are accurate." Judge Vorthak barely glanced at the observer. "This court does not recognize testimony from species that might have been bribed or threatened by human agents." Taeyang tried a different approach. "Your Honor, our communication logs show that we received our diplomatic invitation directly from the Galactic Council. Why would we attack a research station when we were coming here for peaceful talks?" "Obviously a clever cover for your real mission," the judge replied without even looking at the evidence. For 2 days the trial continued like this. Every piece of evidence that proved their innocence was dismissed without consideration. Every witness who tried to speak for them was ignored or accused of being part of a human conspiracy. On the 3rd day, Earth sent a desperate transmission. President Yang appeared on the courtroom's main screen, surrounded by world leaders from every nation on Earth. "Honored members of the Galactic Tribunal," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "These 5 young people are innocent. We have sent you complete records of their journey, including tracking data from 17 different sources. We beg you to examine the evidence with open minds." Judge Vorthak turned off the screen before she could finish speaking. "Earth's pleas mean nothing. The evidence against these terrorists is overwhelming." In their small holding cell that night, the 5 humans sat in stunned silence. The walls were bare metal, and the only light came from a dim bulb overhead. They had been given thin blankets and barely enough food to survive. Dr. Mina was the first to speak, tears running down her cheeks. "They know we are innocent. They have all the proof they need, but they do not care." Captain Jiho nodded grimly. "This was never about the attack. This is about fear. They are afraid of what humanity might become if we are allowed to grow stronger." Park Dong-hyun, who had been quiet through most of the trial, finally found his voice. "So they kill us to send a message to Earth. They want our people to be afraid, to stay small and weak." Choi Hannah looked up from the corner where she had been sitting. "My parents will know the truth. All of our families will know that we died innocent." Taeyang had been working quietly with a small device he had hidden in his clothing. "I managed to connect to the communication system," he whispered. "I can send one last message to Earth." The others gathered around him as he prepared to record their final words to their families and their world. 2 days later they were led to the execution platform. The platform was in the center of the station's main plaza, surrounded by thousands of alien beings. Cameras recorded everything, broadcasting their final moments to billions of creatures across the galaxy. The 5 humans walked together, their heads held high despite their chains. They had decided that if they were going to die, they would die as humans should, with dignity and courage. Captain Jiho was allowed to speak first. His voice carried clearly through the vast space. "To our families on Earth and to all humans watching, remember that we came to the stars in peace. We came with open hearts and minds, hoping to learn and to share what we know. Do not let our deaths change who we are. Do not let them make you forget that humanity is meant to reach for the stars." Dr. Mina stepped forward next, her young face calm despite everything. To the species who are watching this, we ask that you seek truth, not convenient lies. Do not let fear make you forget what justice really means. Taeyang spoke in several alien languages, his words translated for species across the galaxy. We forgive those who do this to us, but we will not be forgotten. Truth has a way of surviving even when those who speak it do not. Choi Hanna's voice was strong and clear. The engines I designed will take humanity to distant worlds. Our dreams will not die with us. Park Dong-hyun was the last to speak. We die innocent, but we do not die in vain. Our deaths will teach the galaxy something important about justice and truth. As the execution was carried out, something unexpected happened. Many of the alien observers began to cry. The humans faced their death with such grace and dignity that even their enemies could not help but be moved. Within hours, the execution was over. The galaxy waited for Earth's response, expecting humanity to surrender, to beg for mercy, to accept their place as a weak junior species. Instead, something else happened. Every human ship in space immediately returned to Earth. Every diplomatic mission ended. Every communication from Earth simply stopped. The entire human race went completely silent, and the galaxy would not hear from them again for 3 long years. 3 years had passed since the execution, and the galaxy had grown used to the silence from Earth. Trade routes that once included human settlements now bypassed the empty space where Earth's ships used to travel. Diplomatic meetings continued without human representatives. Most aliens had moved on with their lives, but some could not forget what they had witnessed. On the crystal world of Nexus Prime, a young Zephyrian named Kethera watched the recorded execution for the 100th time. Unlike most of his people, he had studied human behavior and language. The way the 5 young humans had died, with such courage and dignity, haunted him. He began to notice things that others had missed. Small details that did not make sense. Questions that no one wanted to answer. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was far from silent. In every major city, in underground facilities and hidden laboratories, the entire human race had united with a single purpose. The grief from losing their innocent children had transformed into something harder and more focused. President Yang Sung-hwa stood in the empty United Nations building in New York. The great hall that had once hosted representatives from every nation now served as a command center. Giant screens showed progress reports from secret projects around the world and on the moon. They killed our children, she said to the room full of military leaders and scientists. They executed 5 innocent young people and expected us to surrender. They thought we would beg for mercy and accept whatever scraps they threw at us. Instead, we will prepare. And when we are ready, justice will be served. In a hidden facility beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Song Miho worked 18 hours a day on humanity's most ambitious project. He was Captain Lee Jiho's father, and the pain of losing his son drove him to push the boundaries of human science. His team was developing something called quantum fold technology, a way to bend space itself and travel instantly across vast distances. Every calculation must be perfect, he whispered to the photograph of his son that sat on his desk. Every strike must be precise. We will not become the monsters they think we are, but they will learn that justice cannot be ignored forever. The technology was unlike anything humans had built before. Traditional space travel required ships to move through hyperspace, following established routes that could be tracked and predicted. But quantum fold technology would allow ships to appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly, without warning, and disappear just as quickly. On the dark side of the moon, Admiral Kang Min-soo supervised the construction of Earth's new fleet. The shipyard was the largest construction project in human history, hidden from alien sensors by advanced shielding technology. Hundreds of new ships were taking shape, but these were not like the peaceful exploration vessels humans had built before. These ships are not weapons of conquest, Admiral Kang told his officers during their daily briefing. They are instruments of justice. We are not building an empire. We are building a reminder that some species will never accept injustice, no matter the cost. The ships were sleek and dark, designed to be nearly invisible to most scanning systems. They carried no weapons designed to destroy planets or kill civilians. Instead, they were equipped with precision tools that could target specific buildings, specific vehicles, even specific individuals with perfect accuracy. But the most important work was being done by a woman named Nam Soo-young. She had been Earth's best intelligence operative even before first contact with aliens. Now she had spent 3 years doing something that everyone thought was impossible, infiltrating the galaxy's most secure networks. Soo-young worked from a small apartment in Seoul, surrounded by alien technology that she had slowly learned to understand and modify. Her appearance had been surgically altered to look like a member of the Altarian species, one of the galaxy's most trusted information brokers. Using this disguise, she had gained access to databases, communication networks, and secret files across hundreds of worlds. What she discovered confirmed what every human already suspected, but it also revealed something much larger. The Zephyrians had indeed stolen human ship designs and used them to create the fake vessel that attacked Research Station Omega-7. But the conspiracy went far beyond just the Zephyrians. She found detailed records of secret meetings where dozens of alien species had discussed the human problem. They were afraid that humanity was advancing too quickly, learning too much, and would soon become a threat to their established power structures. The attack and the execution had been planned by a coalition of over 30 different species, all working together to keep humanity weak. But Suyang found something even more valuable than proof of the conspiracy. She found names, addresses, and detailed information about every single being who had participated in the plan to frame and execute Earth's children. From the lowest clerk who had falsified evidence to the highest judges who had ignored the truth, she now had a complete list of targets. In her secure communication to Earth's leadership, she wrote, "We know who they are. We know where they live. We know what they did. When the time comes for justice, we will be ready." As the third year of Earth's silence came to an end, humanity had transformed itself. The peaceful species that had once dreamed of joining the galactic community as equals had become something new. They had not become evil or cruel, but they had become absolutely committed to the idea that innocence should be protected and justice should be served. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They thought Earth had been broken by the execution of its children. They thought humanity had crawled back to their small blue planet to hide and lick their wounds. They had no way of knowing that humanity had spent 3 years becoming the most dangerous force in the galaxy, not because they wanted to conquer but because they refused to let injustice go unpunished. The silence was about to end, and when it did, the galaxy would learn what happens when you execute Earth's children. The morning started like any other day across the galaxy. Aliens woke up, went to work, and carried on with their normal lives. On the crystalline world of New Zephyria, the military commanders prepared for their daily meetings. On distant trading stations, merchants haggled over prices. In the great courts of justice, judges prepared to hear cases. Then, at exactly the same moment across thousands of worlds, every communication device activated itself. On New Zephyria, Commander Zekthor was drinking his morning energy fluid when his wall screen suddenly turned on by itself. On the trading station Kepler 9, Merchant Vexala looked up in surprise as her data pad began displaying information she had not requested. In the High Court of Andromeda Sector, Judge Corin watched in confusion as the courtroom's main display came to life without anyone touching the controls. The same message appeared everywhere: to the galactic community, the truth about Station Omega-7. What followed was 6 hours of evidence that shook the galaxy to its core. Hidden camera recordings showed Zephyrian officials planning the false flag attack. Audio files revealed conversations between alien leaders discussing how to frame the humans. Video footage showed the real perpetrators, Zephyrian soldiers in disguise, preparing the fake human ship that would ram into Research Station Omega-7. On his homeworld, Commander Zekthor watched in growing horror as his own voice played from the speakers. It was a recording from 3 years ago, captured without his knowledge. "The humans must be stopped before they become too powerful," his voice said. "We will use their own ship design against them. When the galaxy sees humans attacking innocent civilians, they will demand justice." "But what about the human diplomatic team?" another voice asked. "Perfect scapegoats," Zekthor's recorded voice replied. "We execute them publicly, and humanity will be too afraid to ever challenge us again." Across the galaxy, similar recordings played. Judges admitted to ignoring evidence. Military leaders laughed about framing innocent young humans. Politicians discussed how much they would benefit from keeping humanity weak and afraid. But the most damning evidence came from the security footage of Research Station Omega-7 itself. The recordings, thought to have been destroyed in the attack, showed the moments before impact. The attacking ship had Zephyrian energy signatures. The pilot visible in the cockpit was clearly not human. Even the ship's hull markings, when examined closely, showed signs of being recently painted to look like human designs. As this evidence played across the galaxy, something else was happening. Dark shapes began appearing in the skies above dozens of worlds. Earth's new ships materialized without warning, their quantum-fold technology making them impossible to track or intercept. On New Zephyria, the planetary defense grid tried to activate as human ships appeared in orbit. But the weapons would not fire. Every command system had been quietly infiltrated and disabled. The crystalline beings who had orchestrated the conspiracy against humanity found themselves completely defenseless. What happened next was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships did not fire massive weapons at cities or military bases. Instead, they used incredibly precise quantum beams that could target individual buildings or even single rooms within those buildings. Commander Zekthor was in his office, watching the evidence play on his screen, when a beam of pure energy dissolved his chair. He jumped up in shock, but the beam had missed him by inches. A voice spoke from the air around him. "Commander Zekthor, you are guilty of conspiracy, murder, and war crimes. Your military command is ended. Your authority is removed. Your weapons are destroyed. You will live to face justice, but you will never again hold power over others." Across the building, similar beams struck with perfect accuracy. Computer systems that controlled weapons were destroyed. Communication equipment used to coordinate attacks was vaporized. Storage areas containing military supplies simply disappeared. But not a single person was killed. The humans had somehow managed to dismantle the entire military command structure without harming any of the soldiers. The same scene played out across dozens of worlds. Corrupt judges found their palaces reduced to empty shells, but they were safely evacuated first. False witnesses watched their estates turn to ash, but their families were unharmed. Military leaders saw their weapons and vehicles destroyed, but their personnel were left alive. On the High Court of Andromeda Sector, Judge Corrin stood in his magnificent courtroom as the evidence of his crimes played on every screen. He had taken bribes to convict the innocent humans. He had ignored clear proof of their innocence. He had sentenced 5 young people to death for political convenience. A human voice spoke from the walls around him. "Judge Corrin, you have betrayed the trust placed in you. You have perverted justice for personal gain. Your court is dissolved. Your authority is ended. You will live, but you will never again decide the fate of others." Beams of energy struck the judge's podium, his gavel, his ceremonial robes, and every symbol of his authority. Within minutes, the grand courtroom was empty except for a confused and terrified alien who no longer had any power. The precision of the human attacks amazed even their enemies. Somehow, Earth's forces had managed to identify and target every person involved in the conspiracy while avoiding any harm to innocent civilians. Military bases were disabled without killing soldiers. Government buildings were emptied of corrupt officials but left standing for honest replacements. Weapon systems were destroyed while leaving hospitals and schools completely untouched. On New Zephyria, the crystalline beings watched in stunned silence as their empire's infrastructure simply ceased to exist. Their military could not fight back because their weapons were gone. Their government could not respond because their corrupt leaders had been removed. Their communication networks had been taken over to broadcast the truth they had tried to hide. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the attack stopped. A new voice spoke across all the worlds that had participated in the conspiracy. It was a woman's voice, clear and strong. "I am Admiral Lee Jihai of Earth Fleet Command. Justice for our children is now complete. Those who murdered innocents have faced judgment. Those who were innocent have been spared. We did not come to conquer or to rule. We came to ensure that truth prevails over lies, that justice prevails over convenience, and that the innocent are protected from those who would harm them for political gain." The voice paused, and when it continued, it carried both sadness and strength. Earth remembers both mercy and justice. We remember mercy for those who had no part in our children's deaths. We remember justice for those who did. The galaxy will know that humanity does not forget, and humanity does not forgive the murder of innocents. But we also do not punish the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. As the Admiral's words faded, the human ships began to disappear as quickly as they had come. The quantum-fold technology that had brought them across the galaxy in moments now carried them away, leaving behind worlds forever changed by Earth's demonstration of precision, power, and restraint. The collapse began on the 3rd day after Earth's demonstration of justice. On the trading world of Nexus 7, the local governor received an urgent message from his people. Citizens filled the streets, demanding answers about why their government had supported the conspiracy against innocent humans. "We cannot trust leaders who murder children for political gain," shouted Kalathex, a prominent merchant who had watched the evidence broadcast with growing horror. "If they can kill 5 innocent young humans, what will they do to us when it serves their purpose?" Similar scenes played out across hundreds of worlds. The evidence that Earth had broadcast was impossible to ignore or explain away. People who had trusted their governments for generations now saw clear proof that their leaders had participated in a conspiracy to frame and execute innocents. On the crystalline homeworld of New Zephyria, the remaining government officials tried desperately to maintain control. But without their military commanders, without their corrupt judges, and without the infrastructure that Earth had systematically dismantled, they found themselves powerless. "The Federation will restore order," announced acting Governor Veldar in what would be his final official statement. "This human terrorism cannot be allowed to stand." But his words fell on deaf ears. The evidence had shown that the real terrorists were the ones who had staged the attack on Research Station Omega-7. The real criminals were the officials who had knowingly executed innocent young people. The citizens of New Zephyria, like citizens across the galaxy, were no longer willing to follow leaders who would commit such crimes. Within a week, over 50 member species had withdrawn from the Galactic Federation. The Great Council chambers that had once hosted representatives from across the galaxy now sat nearly empty. The few remaining delegates spent their time arguing about who was to blame for the crisis, but no one was listening anymore. It was then that Earth broke its silence for the second time since the executions. But instead of weapons or demands for surrender, humanity offered something entirely different: hope. The transmission came from Earth's rebuilt capital city of New Geneva, where President Yang Sunghua stood before a gathering of human leaders and scientists. But this time she was not alone. Representatives from dozens of alien species stood beside her, beings who had opposed the conspiracy from the beginning, species who had tried to speak for the 5 innocent humans during their trial. "To all people of the galaxy," President Yang began, her voice carrying the weight of 3 years of preparation and planning. "The old system has failed. A government that murders innocents to maintain power cannot be trusted to protect anyone. But from the ashes of corruption we can build something better." She gestured to a document displayed on screens across the galaxy. "Earth proposes the Galactic Concordat of Truth. In this new system, evidence will matter more than power. The strong cannot simply eliminate the weak when they become inconvenient. Justice will be more than just the will of the majority." The Concordat was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of giving the most powerful species control over everyone else, it created a system where truth and evidence were the highest authorities. Courts could not ignore facts for political convenience. Military forces could not attack civilians without facing consequences. No species, no matter how powerful, could frame another for crimes they did not commit. But perhaps most importantly, the Concordat established the Memorial Guard, a force of volunteers from across the galaxy whose job was to protect the innocent and ensure that what happened to Earth's 5 young diplomats could never happen again. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Species after species announced their intention to join the new Concordat. Even some former members of the conspiracy, their corrupt leaders removed by Earth's precision strikes, sent representatives to discuss membership in the new system. 6 months after the collapse of the old Federation, memorial services were held on worlds across the galaxy. The services honored the 5 young humans whose deaths had sparked the creation of a more just galactic civilization. On Earth, the main ceremony took place at the Memorial of Truth, a beautiful structure built in the center of New Geneva. 5 simple stones marked the resting places of Captain Lee Jiho, Dr. Park Mina, Kim Taeyong, Choi Hana, and Park Dong-hyun. But their names and final words were carved in stone monuments on hundreds of worlds, translated into every language known to galactic civilization. Admiral Lee Jihai, now older and bearing the weight of the justice she had helped deliver, stood before her brother's memorial stone. Around her, representatives from over 200 species had gathered to pay their respects. Many of them were young, like the humans who had died, and they carried flowers or small gifts from their homeworlds. "You died for truth," she whispered to the stone bearing Jiho's name. "You died believing that justice mattered more than power. The galaxy will remember what you taught us." A young Altarian approached the memorial, carrying a crystal flower that would never fade. She placed it beside Jiho's stone and spoke in perfect human language. "Thank you for showing us that dignity and courage can survive even in the darkest moments." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The 5 humans who had been executed as scapegoats had become symbols of everything the new galactic order stood for: truth, justice, dignity, and the protection of innocence. Earth's ships now patrolled the spaceways, but not as conquerors. They were guardians, protectors of the weak and defenders of truth. When corrupt officials tried to suppress evidence, Earth's forces would arrive to ensure the truth was heard. When powerful species threatened weaker ones, human ships would appear to remind them that strength should be used to protect, not to oppress. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Some species, when pushed to their breaking point, do not shatter. Instead, they become stronger, more determined, and absolutely committed to ensuring that injustice never triumphs again. In the years that followed, historians would call it the Great Transformation. The period when a corrupt galactic government fell and was replaced by something based on truth rather than power. Children across hundreds of worlds would learn the names of 5 young humans who died with such dignity that their sacrifice changed the course of galactic civilization. Earth's children had not died in vain. Their memory became the foundation of a galaxy where truth mattered, where justice was more than political convenience, and where the innocent could live without fear of being sacrificed for the ambitions of the powerful. And in the darkness of space, human ships continued their eternal patrol, carrying the promise that as long as humanity endured, the innocent would be protected and truth would prevail.